On this episode of Say It Forward with Lou, we're going on a treasure hunt, but it's not the kind that requires a map and a pirate's chest. This is a search for gifts, talents, and resources that are already inside of you. Too often we focus on what we lack, but today we're shifting our perspective to what we already have. Have you ever felt like you're missing something? Like if you just had a little more money, a little more time, a different opportunity, then you could walk in your purpose? But what if I told you that everything you need, God has already placed inside of you? Today, we're going to reframe our thinking, shift our focus, and go digging for those hidden treasures. So get comfy, grab your journal and your favorite cup of cozy, and let's sift through today's topic and chat. Hello. This is Linda, aka Lou, and I am your host of Say It Forward with Lou podcast. Welcome back. We are a community for healing, growth, creativity, and positivity. So let's dive in and sift through today's topic and chat. So today we are going to uncover purpose, embrace the pivot, and say forward what God has placed inside of us. We're going on a treasure hunt, but this isn't the kind of hunt where we're searching for something on the outside of ourselves. No, today we're uncovering the treasures, the gifts, and resources that are already within us. Have you ever been in a season where you felt like you didn't have enough? Not enough resources, not enough strength, not enough vision to see beyond where you are? Maybe you've just gone through a major transition, a loss of a job, a divorce, an unexpected shift in life, and all you can see is what's missing. But today, I want to shift your focus from what you lack to what you already have. Because God never asks us what we don't have. He asks us, what do we already have? What do we have in our house? What do we have in our hands? That's where we're starting today, with the story about a woman in the Bible who was in a crisis, but didn't even realize what she needed was already inside her home and inside herself. So I want to take us to 2 Kings 4. There's a widow. This woman has just lost her husband, and she's in a financial crisis. So let's think about that time period. Back in that time, women didn't have many rights, right? Or ways of earning money after their husbands passed. So she was in real danger, right? And not only was she grieving the loss of her husband, but she was facing the very real possibility of losing her 2 sons because creditors were coming to take them as slaves if she didn't pay off this debt. So she was in a season of transition she didn't ask for, and she felt like she had nothing. And let's pause right there, because I know some of you are listening can relate. I know I can. Maybe you're in a season where life pulled the rug from under you, right? You're grieving what was. Maybe your marriage ended, and now you're not only dealing with the heartbreak, but you're also trying to figure out how to rebuild. Maybe you lost a job, and now you're staring at a pile of bills, wondering, God, how am I going to make it? Or maybe it's not even financial. Maybe you feel you've lost yourself in the process, like you don't even recognize who you are anymore. And so back to the widow in the middle of her crisis, right? and she's asking for help. And she asked the prophet Elijah, right? She brings it to the prophet Elijah. And the prophet Elijah asks her a question that could seem almost insensitive at first, right? She's grieving. She doesn't know what she's going to do. And he says, or he asks, what do you have in your house? And she responds exactly like most of us would when we're overwhelmed. Nothing. I have nothing except a little bit of oil. How many of us have answered God the same way when he asks, what do you have? What can you use? What's still left? We say nothing. I don't have anything. Lord, I'm too broken. Lord, I'm too hurt, too behind, too tired, too big, too small, too old, too young, whatever it is, we say, I don't have anything. And so maybe you're listening right now and you feel just like the widow. You're in survival mode. I know what that feels like. Just trying to get through the day. But what if I told you that your oil, the thing you think is small or nothing, is the thing you've been overlooking? It's the very thing God wants to use to bless you. That skill you've been brushing off, that idea you keep ignoring, that's collecting dust in your journals that you wrote it in, that thing that you do naturally, but you don't think much of, it's already inside you, and it's the key to your next season. So let's talk real examples. Maybe you're in a financial transition and you're thinking, I need a job, or I need another job. I need more income. But instead of looking outside, what if you looked within? Do you bake? Do you organize? Are you great with kids? Are you good at making people feel encouraged? That's your oil. Or maybe you've been feeling stuck in your purpose. You've been praying for direction, but you're waiting for something new instead of seeing what's already in your house, what's already inside you. That thing you dismiss as just a hobby. That thing people keep coming to you for advice. That's your oil. So let's shift our perspective. How we see our situation determines how we respond. The widow saw lack. She saw nothing but a little bit of oil. But God saw abundance waiting to be activated. So we want to reframe our questioning to ourselves. And instead of asking, what am I missing? What if we asked, what do I already have? Maybe someone listening feels like they have nothing to offer. Is that you? But maybe that small talent, passion, skill, that's your oil. So my question for you that I want you to reflect on is, what is your oil? What do you already have in your house, in your hands, that you may be overlooking? Now, let's talk about Moses. Exodus 4. When God called Moses to lead the Israelites, Moses felt unqualified. And I spoke to this in one of my previous episodes, talking about my language developing, right? And not feeling qualified. And Moses felt unqualified. He said, I can't speak well. I'm not eloquent of speech. I'm not a leader. I don't have what it takes. Sound familiar? It definitely sounded familiar to me. And God simply asked him, what is that in your hand? Moses looked down. It was just a staff, something he had been carrying all along. But when God touched it, that staff perform miracles. And here's what I want you to catch. Sometimes we think we need something new to step into our purpose. But God is saying, I've already given you everything you need. Use what's in your hand. So, are you a woman who thought she needed a degree to start her business, but then didn't realize you already had years of experience? Something you could already use? Or the single mom who thought she had nothing to offer, but was already managing a household, running a schedule, and leading home and her life with wisdom? Moses doubted himself when God called him to lead. He told God, I'm not eloquent. I don't have what it takes. And God simply asked, what is in your hand? And it was just a staff, but in God's hands, it became powerful. And so here's where I want us to pivot. We often think we need something new to move forward. I know how that feels. But sometimes it's about what's already in your hands, used in a new way. When I was trying to start my podcast, I was like, I don't have what it takes. I don't have the resources. I don't have the funding. I don't have the equipment. And I remember one of my friends sent me a sermon, and it was just a snippet of a sermon. And the individual who was preaching the sermon basically said, what do you have already? You have everything that you need in your house right now. And that really hit me in that moment. And I was like, well, I have my phone. I just gotten a laptop. And I had a ring light. I didn't have a mic, but I could use the microphones that were built into my phone and my laptop. I didn't have the camera, but I started off using the camera in my phone and my laptop. So I had enough to start. Didn't even realize it, right? And so, again, we often think that we need something new to move forward, but it's really about using what's already in your hands, in your house, in a new way. So what if you're a woman who loves baking? I like to use baking examples. My mom loved to bake, right? So I use baking examples. But what if you're a woman who loves baking and you turn it into a business? Or you're someone with the gift of encouragement, or somebody, your friends, or family always comes to you for advice, and you turn that into coaching or speaking. And so what I want you to take away from this is God doesn't ask you what you don't have. He asks for what you're already holding. So my question for you is, what's in your hand right now that could be used differently? Think about that. And that brings us to talk about David when he faced Goliath. And I talked about David and Goliath reference in an episode, Giants Do Fall, right? But David didn't have a sword, a shield, or fancy armor. All he had was a slingshot and 5 smooth stones, something he had been using for years as a shepherd. And it didn't seem like enough, but in God's hands, it was more than enough, right? So what's in your hands right now that feels too small to be significant? What gift, what talent, what piece of knowledge do you have that you've been overlooking? Your slingshot might not look impressive to the world, but with God, it's a giant slayer, right? So today, I want you to take some time and ask yourself, what do I already have? What is my oil? What's in my house? What's in my hand? Because you are not empty. You are not lacking. The treasure that you've been searching for has been inside you all along. David didn't defeat Goliath with Saul's armor. He used what he had, a slingshot and 5 smooth stones. People overlooked him, but God had already equipped him. Sometimes we dismiss our gifts because they don't seem big enough, right? So what if you're a woman who thinks, I'm just good at organizing? But that talent becomes a thriving business or ministry. So the things that feel small or ordinary are often the key to our purpose. So the question here that I want you to reflect on is, what gifts or talents have you downplayed or dismissed as small or not enough? And just even with that, thinking about how Jesus just fed the thousands of people, right? And the disciples and the people could have saw lack with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And Jesus didn't say that's not enough. He took what was there, blessed it, and it multiplied. And so sometimes we hesitate to use our gift because they seem small, because it doesn't seem like it's enough. But if we trust God with them, He multiplies them. He takes our little and in His hand, He multiplies it. So are you a woman who's maybe writes devotionals on social media? Think no one notices? Who knows, in a few years, you keep doing it and you cultivate it and you nurture it. You could be a published author. So don't be afraid to offer what seems small. God will use it in ways beyond your imagination. So here's what I want to leave you with today. You are not empty. You are not lacking. The things that you've been searching for outside of yourself have been inside you all along. Those gifts have been inside you all along. The oil is in your house. The slingshot is in your hand. The staff is already with you. But here's the thing. Oil doesn't flow until you start pouring. The slingshot doesn't take down the giant until you stretch it back to use it. And the staff doesn't part the sea until you stretch it out. And that reminds me, I'm a Gen Xer, right? So that reminds me of The Wizard of Oz. And it's part of this episode's title. And it's a story that so many of us grew up with, right? Or The Wiz, right? Just depending. And after Dorothy traveled all through Oz, facing challenges, looking for help, trying to find her way home, right? And she finally learns the truth. You've had the power all along, my dear. She spent the whole journey searching for something that was already inside her. And isn't that just like us? We look for validation, for answers, for direction in people, places, and things when God has already placed everything we need right within us. The widow in 2 Kings 4 thought she had nothing. But the prophet told her to check her house again. What's in your house? The oil was there, but the miracle didn't happen until she started pouring. David didn't need Saul's armor to fight Goliath. He already had his slingshot and stones, but the victory didn't come until he actually used them. But Moses doubted himself, questioned whether he was the right one to lead, but God had already given him the staff. Yet the Red Sea didn't part until he stretched it out. You've had the power all along, my dear. God placed it in you before you even knew you needed it. But here's the key. You have to activate it. The oil won't flow until you start pouring. The slingshot won't take down the giant until you use it. And the staff won't part the sea until you stretch it out. What is already in your hands that you've been overlooking? What is already in your hands that you've been overlooking? What have you been waiting for permission to use when God is saying you've had the power all along? Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop doubting what's in you. Start pouring, start stretching, start using what God has already given you. Your treasure is already there. You just have to uncover it. And for another reference, right? Again, I love me some movies. The Lion King. A great moment to reference from that movie is when Rafiki reminds Simba of how truly he is the rightful king by showing him his reflection in the water and saying, he lives in you. That moment was powerful because, like Dorothy realizes she had the power all along, Simba had everything he needed within him, but he had to be reminded. Just like Simba ran from his destiny thinking he wasn't enough, sometimes we do the same, searching outside of ourselves for answers when everything we need is already within us. Rafiki literally knocked sense into him, right? Much like life does to us sometimes to remind us who he is. So again, you are not empty. You are not lacking. The things you've been searching for outside of yourself have been inside you all along. The oil is in your house. The slingshot is in your hand. The staff is already with you. But again, oil doesn't flow until you start pouring. The slingshot doesn't take down the giant until you use it. And the staff doesn't part the sea until you stretch it out. You already have what you need. Just believe it and use it. Right? It took Glinda, the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz, and the Wiz to tell Dorothy that she had the power all along, my dear. After all that walking, all that searching, all that fighting, the ability to go home was always within her. She just needed to realize it. Right? Simba, I love me some Simba, right? He was running from who he was, doubting himself, believing he wasn't enough. And then Rafiki, in all of his wild wisdom, leads him to the water and shows him his reflection. And at first, Simba doesn't see anything special. But then the image starts to shift, right? And he sees his father looking back at him. Whew. That's when he hears those powerful words. Remember who you are. Some of you need a Rafiki moment. You've been running, doubting, questioning, searching, when all along, everything you need has been inside of you. But maybe life has to knock some sense into you, just like Rafiki did. But you needed to hear that today. You don't have to keep searching outside of yourself for something God already placed within you. The oil is in your house. The slingshot is in your hand. The staff is already within you. And just like Dorothy, and just like Simba, you've had the power all along, my dear. Now it's time to use it. So I just want to end this episode by saying, Lord, I thank you for the gifts you've placed inside us. Help us to see what we already have, to trust you with it, and to use it for your glory. remove the spirit of lack, fear, and hesitation. We declare that we are equipped, prepared, and ready for the purpose you've placed before us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Say It Forward with Lou. If today's episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. You can also follow along on Instagram at sayitforward_podcast for more encouragement and behind the scenes moments and Alive with Lou. And if you're feeling a pull to take this journey even further, let's connect. Schedule a chit-chat clarity call to see if you and I are the right fit for a coaching partnership. Together, we can uncover the purpose, the perspective, and the pivot you need for your next season. The link will be in the show notes or in my bio on my Instagram page, and I'd love to walk this journey with you. So until next time, stay tuned, stay a while, and let's continue to say it forward together. I look forward to chatting soon. Take care.